Hello and welcome back to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. My name is Kathy Mazak and I am your host. Very, very excited for today's topic because it is something new. So today we're talking about a concept that I call transition friction. And this concept came out during the Navigate 2-week intensive. So this summer in May, it's still this summer because it's July. So in May, I delivered my Navigate program live as a 2-week summer intensive. And I realized, I was very excited to do it. And then I realized that I'd never delivered Navigate live. And because I'd always, I guess I'd delivered kind of parts of the material live, but it had started out as a recorded course and it had always been a combination of recordings and live meetings. So the program I originally developed back in 2017, and it has gone through various evolutions, but none of them were as a live delivered program where the actual material of the program was delivered live. That was always recorded. So this summer in May, when I did it live, it was so cool to have this room full of 75 people interacting with the material, as I was presenting it. And it created a bunch of new concepts because I realized these different places that things needed to be clarified or I could explain them a little bit better. And in the next 2 podcast episodes, this one and the next one, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the new concepts and ways of explaining things that came out during the process of delivering Navigate Live. So exciting. And you get to hear these new things. Okay, so the one I'm talking about today is called transition friction. So this comes from the question that so many people have and really that so many writing coaches are trying to solve, which is, why do writing projects get stuck? So when I teach about submitting academic articles, I teach about the publication pipeline. And for me, although my definition is definitely I'm refining the way I talk about this, but how I've traditionally been talking about the publication pipeline is as a high-level multi-project plan for all of your publications, from idea to submission and, of course, revision, or idea to publication, right? So that kind of big high-level plan has different places where projects can get stuck. But also, right, inside of individual writing projects, there are places where things get stuck. We talked last week on the podcast, or the week before, we talked recently on the podcast about a reading spiral. And that's a place in the writing process where people can get stuck. They get stuck on a reading spiral. They read something that they think they're just going to summarize and add to the lit review, and it becomes reading another thing, and they're down a reading rabbit hole. And I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode for how to get out of that. But basically, there's these different moments and where things get stuck. And I want to describe some of those moments as being moments of transition, moments when you really need to move from one phase of the writing project or one phase of the pipeline or one stage of the pipeline to another. And it's the movement. It's from one stage to the next or one writing phase to the next that gives friction. It's in those transitions. And we kind of resist or doubt our ability to transition. And that's what transition friction is. And it presents a lot of different ways. So let me in Navigate, of course, I go like much deeper into this, but I'm going to give you a couple little examples to get your brain working so you can start to think about where in the writing process you might be having difficulty with transition friction. So let me talk about the one that I think is probably the top one, which is how to like that transition between my article is done, I know it's done, but I need to submit it. So we can feel a lot of resistance, hesitancy, we can feel self-doubt, we can feel just kind of like, oh, I'm just not ready. And that is transition friction. Because what's happening is that your work is transitioning from something that has been controlled by you, right? And maybe you and some colleagues, some students, right? But controlled by you. You're putting the words on the paper. You're doing the interpretation of the data. You're creating the charts. You're creating the tables. You're selecting the quotes. And it has all been kind of like within your control. And the transition is actually, it's multi-layered. When you submit that article to a journal for publication, it now becomes another thing. It becomes something that is viewed by others. It's read by other eyes. You go from or the project and thus you go from being kind of invisible to being visible. And then when the article actually comes out, you are even more visible. But there's something about that transition between I control it, I've been working on it so long, it's been in the drafting, the writing, the polishing stage, and now I have to transition that to submission. That gives us friction, that causes us to get stuck. So the point of naming these transition friction points is awareness. Because without awareness that that's what's happening, then you can't solve the problem. So if you've been hesitating and you've been thinking, oh, it's just that I'm not quite done yet. Like the draft isn't, the article isn't really done. And that's why I haven't submitted. So sometimes, many times, we are telling ourselves that when actually what's happening is that we are resisting the transition. We are resisting, in this case, going from here is my thing that I control and I'm the only one, me and my little team of writers, we're the only ones who are reading it, transitioning to criticism, right? To opening this up and saying, okay, here it is now, give me your feedback, judge it. And then, of course, you personally feel judged. We can definitely do a different podcast episode about how, we're taking all these things personally when they aren't. But that, you see what I mean by that transition. The article goes from being one thing to another thing, right? It goes from being your project, your private project, to being public. And it's even going to get more public, right? When it's actually published. So those are the transitions that often cause problems. I'm going to give you another kind of pipeline level transition that is the next logical one, which is when you get either a rejection or let's say like a difficult, or what you perceive to be a difficult revise and resubmit back from the journal. That's another transition point, right? It goes then from being judged back into your court. And that is also uncomfortable and can cause us a lot of friction. And so things get stuck in that transition as well, because lots of times it's like, oh, I got rejected. I'm just going to leave it on my hard drive. I'm just going to leave it on my computer and I'm not going to think about it for a while. And it's not a bad idea. Listen, I understand. Like, especially when we get rejected, we don't necessarily feel excited to immediately like tackle it again. So it's not a bad idea to wait a little while. But what many people do is they wait for way too long. And that, again, is this transition friction point, because it's going from this thing that you thought was done back to a thing that you need to improve and work on. And that transition, we resist it. It causes us friction. We're like, ugh, I don't really want to do that because I already did it. So I'm just going to put it down and I'm not going to think about it, when that is like your article that is closest to being published of anything, the things that have just come back to you. So in Navigate, I talk about a lot of different transition friction points at the pipeline level, at the project level. But I also want you to think about how transition friction might be causing you to get stuck in kind of all kinds of projects in all kinds of ways in your professional life. Even transitions from semester to semester, from one type of work to another type of work during the day. What are the transitions that cause you friction and therefore cause resistance and therefore kind of slow you down, hold you back? If you are interested in learning more about these kinds of topics, of course, you should know that my fall cohort of Navigate is enrolling and it is starting soon. It starts the first Friday in September is the first meeting. It goes until the Friday before U.S. Thanksgiving in terms of the live meetings every Friday. You can read all about it at scholarsvoice.org/navigate. But I got a free thing for you. Coming up, and I want you to register. The registration link is in the show notes. And this is my fall writing planning session. So if you're interested in getting writing done during the semester, right? When, yes, you have too much teaching, when, yes, you have too many meetings and you're too scheduled and everybody wants stuff from you, but you have big career goals and you need to get papers submitted, then the first step is to come to the fall writing planning session. Because what we do in that event, which is a 90-minute free live class that I am delivering August 10th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And you can come for this 90-minute class. And what we'll do is I'll teach you my process for getting writing done even during the busy semester. It's not, it takes pre-planning and thought. It takes the will, the desire, and it takes a process. So if you've been doing any of the following things and it hasn't been working for you to sustain your writing during the semester, here's an example of some things that I know people do that don't always work or don't last past the first few weeks of the semester. Things like, I'm going to hold Fridays open for writing, or worse, Friday afternoons for writing. Okay, so if you've been doing that and you've been like, I can't sustain my writing because I can't hold the Fridays or because something always happens on a Friday, then this is the workshop for you, because I'm going to teach you why that method doesn't work. Okay, we want regular writing, but the idea of like, I'm going to save a whole day and that whole day is going to be Friday often will backfire. So we got to start at a different place. That's what I teach in the fall writing planning session. Other things that you do. I know you do these because when people come to the writing planning sessions, they come out with all this stuff. We talk about in the fall writing planning workshop, like, how do you choose like a number of projects to work on? And so many of you come in and you're like, I'm going to do, like, I really have to get these 5 papers out. And you can change this number to whatever makes sense for your field, because I know some of you are like, oh yeah, 5 papers in a semester is normal for me. That's great. Change the number to 10 or whatever. And some of you are like, 5 papers is crazy. That's fine. Change the number to 2 or 3. But like, you come in with this goal that's like really big, and it is based on the fact that that is what you like really want to happen, but not based in the reality of your current schedule and your semester and your energy and all of those things. So what we learn in the fall writing planning session is we learn how to set some goals for the semester that are like doable, that you can actually do. And I teach you a little bit of what I teach in Navigate about managing multiple projects at once. So we touch on that a little bit, because you are going to have to manage multiple projects at once. That's part of being an academic. But what we can't do is like this big list of like, here's all of the articles that here's what's actually happening. You're thinking, instead of like, this semester I'll work on these things based on this amount of time that I have and all these other projects that I'm working on simultaneously. Instead, what you're saying is, I wish like, I wish that these 5 articles were out, or I wish that these 3 articles were out. But wishes and goals are different. So I'm going to teach you my method for setting those goals, even if you have a lot of other things happening. So this workshop is specifically for people who feel like their schedules are already packed and that they really have trouble sustaining writing during the semester because of that packed schedule. Because they're like, I just can't get a regular writing time to stick. I am doing too many things, which is true. You are doing too many things. And I can't, I guess I'll just have to wait to write until Christmas. We're not going to do that. We're going to create something sustainable and doable. And that's what I'm going to teach you in the free fall writing planning workshop on August 10th. So find the link in the show notes. You won't find it on my website. You got to go to the show notes, or you will get some emails about it. But if you're listening to this now, then you want to grab your spot. Please find the link in the show notes. Register for the workshop. You just need your email. You'll get a confirmation email with a calendar invite so that you can add it to your calendar, and you'll be ready to go. And I will see you on August 10th. If you made it to this far in the podcast, I want to just give you a little tease for next week. Next week, we're talking about zombie projects. So stay tuned. I can't wait to talk to you on the next podcast. Have a great day. Bye.